During the process through which Kevin McCarthy eventually became House Speaker, it became clear that there was probably gonna be some problems in his future, getting along with some of the more extreme members of his caucus, that sort of thing. Problems are already cropping up, but not necessarily the ones that we thought he'd face. You see, they're in a difficult process right now, wherein they're trying to put together a budget that is going to have to satisfy a lot of different groups and also apparently balance the budget within 10 years. And during the tense negotiations, the public aspects of it, as well as the behind the scenes things, it's apparently led to some bad blood because Kevin McCarthy, it turns out, is a little bit of a salty little devil. We're gonna get to some of the issues he has with some of his colleagues in a second, but just so that you understand like the context of this, President Joe Biden, of course, and Democratic leadership are pressuring them to put this together. It is a rapidly approaching debt limit deadline, so there's time pressure as well, and they're struggling to unite behind a fiscal blueprint. They say in Politico that McCarthy appears to be looking for a scapegoat, which does not obviously telegraph a lot of confidence in the process. He apparently has already told colleagues he has no confidence in House Budget Chair Jody Arrington, the man responsible for delivering a budget framework, laying out the spending cuts that Republicans have said they will demand in exchange for any move to increase the debt limit. Aside from perceived disloyalty, which is an issue for him, McCarthy also regards Arrington, a former official in the George W. Bush administration, as incompetent, according to more than half a dozen people familiar with his thinking. Often in these sorts of reportings, you'll have according to a person familiar with their thinking, or according to 2 people. I love the flex of according to 6 people familiar with their thinking. Oh no, he's been calling him incompetent to everybody. There were some people at a drive-through we went to that overheard him say, I love that, just to really put the pressure on him. But it's not just him. Also Steve Scalise, McCarthy has been saying he can't rely on Scalise, describing the majority leader as ineffective, checked out, and reluctant to take a position on anything, apparently still harboring a grudge from previous power struggles between them. So I'm sure you are more tapped into this than I am. What do you make of the difficulties that he's having?
Well, first of all, he's somebody who hates disloyalty. McCarthy does not like that. It strikes me as a little foolish to be doing this because he doesn't really have a working majority. He needs every little bit of support he can have, and to go after the people who did ostensibly support him in that race doesn't seem like a great piece of leadership from the speaker. Steve Scalise is someone who would not have ruled out running against McCarthy for a leadership position, and it really ticked McCarthy off. Arrington, at one point during these negotiations on the House floor, when there were so many votes for the speaker, Arrington floated Scalise as a possibility when it looked less likely that McCarthy could win, and that really pissed McCarthy off. So there is some history here, and there's some legitimacy to it. But you would think that McCarthy, who is barely the speaker and barely able to get a working majority, would be a little bit more careful about who he's telling these things to, because it probably runs deeper than Arrington and probably runs deeper than Scalise, certainly.
Yeah, I think I had a lack of confidence in McCarthy as a speaker from jump, right? It took you 15 rounds to get the Speaker of the House position, and that was for a reason. I feel like as a leader, right, you guys spent more time trying to figure out how to sit in that seat than to actually get the work done. Your personal problems that you have with people for being disloyal should probably be put to the side so that you can do your actual job. What we've also seen is that the Republican Party contains some of the most unloyal people we've ever seen. They're flip-flopping every week about whether or not they support Trump and whether or not they support McCarthy every other week. They're also disloyal to their constituents. So I'm not sure why he expected them to be loyal to him. So at this point, it's like, McCarthy, do the job, the work of the American people that you were voted in. You got your seat, now do the work. Put your personal problems to the side and figure out how to get the budget passed.
Yeah, Michael, I'm curious your read on how this ends up playing out in terms of the actual budget. Because as you say, like, he can't afford to lose too many people, and there's a lot of different ways that he could lose different people. The common wisdom is that, well, but it's about raising the debt limit, so that puts additional pressure from some of the wealthiest people in America to make sure that you get something. But they're also massive contrarians, and they don't want Biden to succeed. So what is going to happen?
I mean, the bottom line is the Biden succeeding part. The other thing is that Arrington, who is one of the targets of this, is the chairman of the Budget Committee. So he's a big player in these negotiations. So to that end, if McCarthy is looking for a budget victory, if he's looking not only to bolster the chances of his own caucus and his own chances, as remote as that would seem, to be Speaker in a next Congress, he's alienating people already who are linchpins in seeing the budget pass. But it's all motivated by making sure not that Jody Arrington gets a victory or that Kevin McCarthy does, but that Joe Biden doesn't. And so the things that they are doing together and en masse that they all care about, I think the calculation, if you can say that McCarthy calculates well, and I don't know that he does, it's probably too early in his speakership because this is the first thing. The calculation that he's making is that, okay, I can afford to alienate some people in my own caucus because we all agree and we all need to make sure that the Democrats don't look good here. So I think that's what's going to motivate them, and that's why maybe this is like a kerfuffle that will pass.
But then is the idea that they'll lose some Republicans, but other Democrats will jump over just to make sure that there's some kind of budget? Because to make Biden look bad, don't you have to violate the debt limit increase?
It's not just Biden, it's the Democratic minority in the House. And yes, you do. I mean, that's what would make Biden look bad. They are counting on some Democrats.
Doesn't that make the economy look bad?
Well, it makes the economy
Isn't that wrecking the economy to own the libs?
Well, hello. I mean, that's like when jobs numbers are bad, and Republicans talk about how good it is that job numbers are bad when there's a Democratic president.
Well, but isn't there a difference between delighting in the current situation and making the situation actively worse? Like the people they're there to represent are going to be affected.
They certainly don't want the blame for it, but they would cast the blame in such a way, and that's what a speaker's job is to a large extent, is spinning the story. They would cast the blame on the fact that the Democrats didn't rise to the occasion, and the White House was in the wrong. It doesn't help the process, and certainly they don't want to, by screwing the economy up. That's not a good way to hold on to an already tenuous hold on both the speakership and the House of Representatives. Already, the Democrats are talking about winning back the House next time with a concerted effort in California and New York to win those seats back, and that it changes like that.
Interesting. AB, any final thoughts on that? On how you think that this might end up playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing we've seen from the Republican Party in general is that they are always focused on the long game, right, and the end run. And so I think this also plays into that as well, right? The conversation comes up if we want Biden to look bad. And so if the American people feel like our economy is getting worse, it's struggling because the Biden administration is being difficult, right? Or the Democrats are being difficult and they don't want to see us live life, right, and having a decent economy, then that plays in the favor of the Republican Party. But I think the sad part is that a lot of the constituents of the Republican Party don't realize that the harm is at the detriment of them in order to increase the power, right, and increase the reputation of the leadership. And so it's just unfortunate times. But I think like McCarthy, you are a leader, right? And I think as a leader, you have to learn how to negotiate with people, even people that you dislike sometimes. And unfortunately in this situation, people you distrust. But in order to do what's right for the American people, they're struggling enough, right? And I think the American people can care less about what some internal conflicts are if it means that there is a broader resolution for us as a country. And people are scared right now about what this is going to look like for our economy and in the long term and 10 years from now.
Yeah, understandable.